Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan and welcome back to Primetime Crisis. Today I want to talk briefly and broadly again about the new Powerpuff Girls series, talking a little bit about last week's batch of episodes, and I'm sad to see that they're not going to keep coming out this way, although considering how long it takes to produce an animated episode of television, I know that Steven Universe takes a really long time to produce each episode. It's totally understandable that we're not going to get to keep seeing 5 days a week of this show, but there's an episode that airs tonight, and I will start tackling these one at a time after this. There's an episode that airs tonight, and then there's another one that airs next week, so I guess they're going to start doing these once a week, and I don't know how long that's going to go, but like a lot of the Cartoon Network shows, it seems like when they air is kind of inconsistent and random, and Cartoon Network seems to be pretty good at letting us know when things are going to air, telling us early on, here's how we're doing the next batch or the next episodes, but it's not like you'll get a whole season that always airs at the same night, the same time. They kind of move things around, and because of the 11-minute format, I totally understand that, and that kind of makes sense. But anyway, I'm not going to go one by one with these. I kind of want to just talk, again, kind of more generalized about how the show is going and how I'm feeling about it versus that first week. First of all, Manos and I, when we did our discussion on this last week, said that we really expected this to get serialized and for Powerpuff Girls to finally start doing more long-form storytelling, and I think we've got some hints of it from last week's batch of episodes, and it's not doing it yet. These are still very separate, standalone, one-and-done episodes that can kind of be watched in any order, but there are a couple of big tells that makes me think that this is going to start really going off in its own direction, and that, like Manos and I predicted, and I don't think that this is like a real impressive prediction, I think that they were really smart in starting with these standalone episodes to get old-school fans like me kind of used to this, so that we trusted that it was really Powerpuff Girls, and that even though it's a reboot, the flavor is not that far removed, the writing is really funny, the satire is there. And by the way, something I meant to mention in that 45-minute discussion that Manos and I did, that I'll bring up now because I just remembered it. Speaking of satire, this does what original Powerpuff Girls did, but it kind of dials it to 11 in that it makes fun of superhero collateral damage all the time, and makes being responsible with powers and having to be careful not to let your emotions rule you when you have a lot of power a major centerpiece of a lot of the character arcs, and the movie did that, and I feel like this is taking its cues from the movie a lot, both in that big idea really permeating throughout, but also sometimes the depth of the animation reminds me of the movie, and sometimes the score, there's a lot of nods to what the film was doing, and the movie kind of went its own way with the soundtrack. You know, it certainly had a lot of that techno stuff, but during quiet downtime moments, and I don't know how to describe it, but it had its own kind of flavor, and this show has taken that and borrowed it, and I'm a huge fan of the movie, so I was really surprised to see that and really excited about that. But anyway, here are the couple of things that make me think that it's going to go serialized pretty quickly. One of them is we set things up, and Powerpuff Girls never set stuff up. You get to the end of you got to the end of what was the episode? It was Strong-Armed with the villain Pack Rat, and that was kind of a fun villain. That he's exactly what he sounds like. He just collects everything, and he is a Pack Rat. And you get to the end of the episode, and he's set up to come back. He turns into this big giant monster, and he gets defeated. But he's not down for the count, and he's set up to eventually come back and get his revenge on the girls. And that was a rarity if it ever happened in Powerpuff Girls, and so and that's also an episode where it doesn't stop with once again the day is saved. It's just there he is, and then fade and then cut to black as if it were a big cliffhanger. So that's one thing. Another thing is the the villains all coming together in the in the last episode from that batch, which was Tierra Trouble. We introduce a lot of the major villains from the first show all in that episode, which was absolutely hysterical, and I really enjoyed it, and it felt like this is not the same thing, but it felt like almost a nod to or a throwback to to Meet the Beatles episode, just because it had a lot of I think it actually had all the villains from that episode, and it had more also, and they weren't all really teaming up together, but you very rarely saw that many of the Powerpuff Girls villains all in the same episode. You know, that was kind of that was kind of Powerpuff Girls Almost Got 'Em, you know, from Batman the Animated Series, and this had kind of some of that again, so that was really cool. Putting all of those together and then dropping him in there, he has this scary mystical tiara that can suck people into it and takes them to probably some sort of scary nether realm hell thing. And I think it's Fuzzy Lumpkins it's been a few days since I watched these. I think it's Fuzzy Lumpkins who gets sucked into the crown. And he leaves for a lot of the episode, and you wonder what happened to him, and then that pays off at the end when he comes back in, and he's like, I've seen things no one should ever see. And it just doesn't strike me as a standalone episode. It seems like it's setting up stuff to come. It was really fun to see a lot of those villains come back. We've got the Gangrene Gang there. Again, we've got Fuzzy Lumpkins there. That's our second cameo now for Mojo Jojo. He hasn't really had his own episode yet, and I'm excited to see him finally have a big supervillain plan. You know, so far we've just had that Mojo Jojo that kind of wants to fit in with the crowd and sees himself almost like a normal townsperson, where like he talks sort of like a supervillain, and he would like to rule the world, but he's on his off time, and so he just has a normal, mundane, regular person life. One of my favorite episodes of the original series is the Day in the Life Mojo episode, where he goes to the grocery store and he's looking for eggs, and he keeps asking a guy what aisle things are on, and it's kind of making fun of the mundanity of life, but also people that work at stores that have no personality and seem like blocks of wood, and that whole thing is absolutely hilarious. We gotta have that Mojo here, and I'm looking forward to the crazy gun-toting Mojo Jojo that tries to rule the world and has some kind of big crazy plan. He doesn't even seem to really hate the Powerpuff Girls that much yet, so we'll see what happens. Even though this is a reboot, it's obviously not an origin thing, so the Powerpuff Girls are familiar with Mojo Jojo. It seems like it's the same normal status quo with Powerpuff Girls, where they have probably fought each other a whole bunch of times, and he just hasn't had another giant machination yet. So I'm looking forward to that, but that all really makes me wonder if we're going to have more of an ongoing story with this. However, I was a little bit surprised that in the episode where they all, Power Up Puff, where they all get new powers. I love that episode, by the way. I think that's probably my, if one so far were to beat out Bye Bye Bellum, it's probably that one. I still love Bye Bye Bellum. That's part of that same batch. But anyway, and also the Bellum thing kind of makes me wonder about it too, because it's certainly possible that the whole thing could take that the whole series could take place in the 1,000 days where she's on vacation, and that we might not see her again in the series, or very rarely, because the mayor is very much kind of gallivanting around by himself, and we haven't seen her in any other episode around with him. So it seems like we are kind of maybe keeping a continuity together, although he's not in his office very much. You know, he goes out and he's doing other things, so that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But with Power Up Puff, it made me, I found myself wondering after that why we didn't see the girls' new powers again, because if they have those, and that seems like a direct Green Lantern spoof to me. Well, Green Lantern and also Wonder Twins, because I don't think it's any mistake or coincidence that the first of the girls to get their new powers is Buttercup, and of course she's the green one, and she looks like a Green Lantern, and she's creating a lot of weapons and things that you see Green Lantern create a lot. She's got missiles, and she turns into an airplane, but she seems a lot more creative than the movie version of Green Lantern. She comes up with all kinds of crazy kind of offensive weapons and the kind of badass stuff. And then the idea is that the other girls, each of their new powers that are very Green Lantern power, they have an energy field. They can create anything they want to within it. It all is reflections of their personalities, and it takes Blossom a long time to develop hers. There's maybe a little bit of satire about puberty going on there. And but it's very Wonder Twin in that she gets kind of the short end of the straw, because it's sort of like the Wonder Twin who only makes things out of water, because she can only make things that clean stuff, because she's so anal retentive about cleanliness. And anyway, I really expected those powers to come back after that, and we had another 3 or 4 episodes after that. No, we only had. Okay, the order that I saw them in is different than the order of the list on Wiki. So I saw another 3 or 4 episodes after that, but this list has it as Power Up Puff and then Tiara Trouble right after that. So I guess they aired in a different order than I saw them. So just because the Powerpuff Girls didn't use their new powers there in Tiara Trouble doesn't mean anything, because they didn't really use their powers that much in that episode. That was all about a beauty pageant. So I don't know. The beauty pageant episode is interesting because it's kind of a retread of another episode from Steven Universe that had kind of the exact same moral lesson, where Steven is trying to help Connie. I think it's Connie. I forget. At a talent show, and it becomes too much about him, and he realizes it toward the end. And you have the same thing here with Bubbles and the girls, and Bubbles just ends up looking absolutely hideous with the makeup and the giant teeth, and it's super, super creepy. But anyway, I don't really want to say a whole lot more about it right now. I'm going to start doing these episode to episode as they come out, and I'll talk more specifically about specific episodes. But I kind of, these first 2 weeks, just wanted to encourage people to watch them first of all, and say once again that this is, from the first week, it's just getting better and better. I liked this second batch even a lot better than I did the first batch, and I didn't want to talk like too in depth yet in case people are still trying to decide if they want to watch it. But like I said, I will go ahead and start doing episode to episode, since we're getting away from, and also this is just because of time constraints with me. I didn't have time to make one for each of these, but but I do want to keep talking about the show on Primetime Crisis, because I think as we go along, there are liable to be things that at least link episodes together that will be fun to talk about episode to episode. But anyway, I think that's going to be about it for me today. Thanks a lot for watching, and let me know in the comments if you're enjoying this show. I also wanted to say, come to think of it, that Buttercup is quickly becoming my favorite character in the show, which is crazy over Bubbles, although their Bubbles is really growing on me now. Now that she's had her own episode with Octi Lost, I'm getting more of a feel for what that actress is doing with that voice, and it is seeming more like Bubbles, but again, a little bit revamped, just like the other two. But Buttercup gets all the best lines. She's absolutely hilarious, and keeps saying things that I never expected. Super sarcastic. I'm starting to understand why the writers of the show seem to be in love with their Buttercup, and I'm starting to fall in love with her too. Anyway, leave your comments. Let me know what you think of this show so far, and I'll talk to you again here in a day or two about the next one. The next one is the Ringlegruff Gals, and that airs, according to Wiki, tonight. So I'll talk about that tomorrow or the next day. But in the meantime, I'm Captain Logan, and thanks again for watching.